Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where on this bumper episode with me and Zachary Jellab, we're going to break down the Carabao Cup Final. Of course, Manchester United defeating Newcastle 2-0, ending their 5.5-year wait for a major accolade. The club's longest wait for silverware since 1983. Wow. So everyone's feeling very positive on the red side of Manchester following this 90. Like I said, we're going to relive the game, decide where it was won and lost, and also discuss how Manchester United can use this victory as a springboard for future success. Often a narrative that we like to peddle, isn't it? Oh, you know, when you win the Carabao Cup, tease you up for
the Premier League.
The league the next season, so on and so forth. But yeah, let's address some overarching numbers then to begin with, because you know, when you look at some of the underlying statistics, it paints a picture, doesn't it? United, despite the scoreline, didn't have things all their own way.
Yeah, I think for someone that just looked at the scoreline, they would think that United won it pretty easily. And actually, that's not what happened. Newcastle had the majority of possession with 61% at the end of the 90. Also completed roughly twice as many passes as United, or Manchester United as well. Eddie Howe's men also outshot United by 1 with 15-14. But United defended their box really, really well. And Newcastle struggled to create any clear-cut chances. Now, that's also emphasised as well by the fact that the Magpies only had 2 shots on target, whereas United, on the other side, had 9. And when you actually look at XG, United had 1.19 to Newcastle's 1.24, showing that Newcastle maybe didn't quite get the rub of the green. Now, essentially, Newcastle did perform pretty well as a collective, but this game was decided by individuals, wasn't it, Hannah?
It was. It's a great segue, almost as if I scripted it. Some of the standout players in this 90, I mean, we have to start with Casemiro, don't we? Their big game player, the man for the big moment. He won the battle in central midfield, safe to say that, although didn't have it all his own way.
No.
Bruno Guimaraes and Joel Linton, very competitive in that area of the pitch, but still, the Brazilian won 3 out of 5 tackles. He completed 5 blocks. Only Joel Linton completed more. He made 6 ball recoveries and won 7 of his 11 ground duels. So that paints a picture, doesn't it? Like, that area of the pitch was highly contested. Like I said, didn't have it all his own way. But, you know, edged those individual battles that he had with some of Newcastle's more talismanic players. Also chipped in on the attacking front. Only 2 goals away now from matching his season high tally of 7 in all competitions. And one of my favourite stats of the whole scenario, he's now scored 4 goals in his last 12 games in all competitions. 1 more goal than he'd scored across the previous 89 matches. So he's really embraced that newfound responsibility of stepping forward, of breaking out from midfield and joining in with the attack, also being a pain in the bottom to opposition from set pieces as well. And what a glorious header. It's got to be said. And I mean, I think as much as I want to just talk about Casemiro and maybe some of United's more impactful players, we've got to shout out some of Newcastle's players as well. Right?
Yeah, I think going into this, one of the biggest headlines, right, was the goalkeeper situation for Newcastle. Obviously, Nick Pope getting that red card against Liverpool meant that he couldn't then go play in the final, which Newcastle fans were so disappointed about. And then there was the unique situation that Dubravka, who had previously been on loan for the first half of the season,
League Cup winning Dubravka.
Indeed, who gets the winner's medal after this, who had previously been on loan with United and had played 1 game for them in the Carabao Cup, then meant he was cup tied when he was recalled and couldn't play for them in the final. Meaning, Loris Karius. Loris Karius had to play in the game. And I mean, look, this stat alone kind of says what's happened over the past few seasons for him. He made his first appearance in this cup final since February the 28th, 2021, which was for Union Berlin in a Bundesliga match, which was 728 days ago. And now, although I think some people may be kind of saying certain things about the second goal, even though it was deflected, I think it would have been a very, very tough call to blame the keeper. He made 8 saves on the day. I thought he did really, really well. When you actually talk to a couple of United fans, they were saying that he's the reason that Newcastle were still in it by the end of the 90. And so, you know what? Fair play to him. Hats off to him. Pat on the back for himself. He's somebody that I think can go home quite happy with his performance. But I mean, we're talking about some of the players. I mean, Ten Hag, what he's been doing during games, Hamill, has been so impressive this season.
Yeah, I think it is a good time to move into the Ten Hag side of things, because I thought it was really smart taking Drought off at half time. He was obviously on a yellow card, not great when you're up against Alan St Maximin. Aaron Bissaka came on to great effect as well, completing 4 of his 7 tackles. He was really up for the task in that second 45. I thought he was great, to be frank, particularly when, you know, a lot of the time Newcastle were turning over possession in good areas, and he was making those great recovery runs and just sort of nipping their attacks in the bud. You know, in good areas of the pitch. He took Fred off as well after about an hour, didn't he, when he was on a yellow card. Funny that he sort of left the guys on with yellows that he trusted. Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Martinez, and he was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, those rules don't apply
Smart.
for everyone.
Smart.
I'm going to take off who I need to take
Smart.
off. And he did it in a timely fashion as well. I also wanted to talk about United's defensive unit as well, because it'd be quite easy in this game to be like, listen, Rashford forced the issue, Casemiro scored a brilliant header. But what Ten Hag's done this season, he's improved the defence more so than the attack. And I think that's got... Varane's availability has a lot to do with that, right? Like, he's managed to remain relatively injury-free, won 100% of his tackles, aerial duels and ground duels in this game. And there's not a lot of volume in there. Like, that's an impressive soundbite when you look at it a little bit closer. You know, it might have been 1 out of 1 tackles, 3 out of 3 ground duels or something. But whenever he had to do something, he did it perfectly. Martinez won a joint match high amount of blocks. Shaw, game high amount of interceptions.
As a collective, that's so impressive.
Just like murderous for the Newcastle forward line, right? When every one of them's having such a good game. And emblematic of that is the fact that Almiron and St Maximin, despite getting into really good areas, only created 1 chance for their teammates between them.
Very often you'd see them get there and have to turn back. I mean, one of the most impressive things over the past couple of weeks you've seen, I think, Erik Ten Hag come out with, and what you've seen with the way there's a thing I feel like nowadays, maybe it's a bit snobby or whatever, but it's like the only way you can win trophies and the only way you can win football games is by playing really nice passing football.
It's Guardiola, he's brainwashed everyone.
Essentially, right? And I like the fact that Ten Hag has come in and kind of gone with some games. You know what? We're not going to have all this possession. I think he came out and went, look, it's fine playing pretty football, but you know what matters even more? Winning trophies, winning games. And it's almost a little bit like that old classic Jose back in the day where it was just about winning
But it's
matches.
nice that he has the in-game sort of management, and he can make those tweaks that enact that attritional style of play. Like, it's one thing just saying that or being Jose Mourinho and only having one way to win games, but Erik Ten Hag has that. Like, the squad understand his system well enough, and him as a manager well enough to make those adjustments in game and see the game out in different ways.
And there are certain games where he can have them possession-based, playing lovely football when Eriksen's back fully fit, so on and so forth. I like that, you know what, Eriksen's got injured and he's been able to adapt really well. It's really, really impressive. And obviously that's why he's in contention for possible Manager of the Year talks. Agreed.
What do you think went wrong for Newcastle then? Obviously we've heaped a lot of praise on United. We want to keep the video pretty punchy, but so give me an overview.
I think firstly, maybe just a little bit unfortunate. I think XG would show that as well by the fact that they actually did just edge it. I think there's certain in-game moments where the foul they give away for the free kick is just one you don't have to give away in that scenario. I'm pretty sure the guy was kind of facing back. He was facing towards his own goal at that moment and gives it away. Then it's in a great area for United, who have been pretty good at set pieces this season, to put one away, and just an area you just don't want to be doing it. The other one that I think was Alan St Maximin. Now, I think we get into a certain point with St Maximin where Newcastle are obviously pushing on to playing in Carabao Cup Finals and trying to get into the Champions League. I just don't think that is quite his level. I think he's maybe the level below, because when Newcastle were obviously battling out in the relegation zone, he was the star man. He was amazing for them. But in this game, I kind of felt like you really saw the quality drop. I mean, he attempted 9 dribbles during the game. He only completed 5. 5 is still quite a lot, but that's a 56% completion rate, and sometimes that's not what Eddie Howe exactly wants his wingers doing down that left side, especially when you compare the fact that Joe Linton a couple of weeks ago was playing on that left side, and now there's St. Maximin.
Well, context is key, isn't it? Because we can say that like 5 dribbles is a lot, and in isolation sounds impressive, but if that means that you are springing United attacks by having the ball pinched off for you in these sort of advantageous areas, then it's not great. It is wasteful, and you're not retaining the ball to the degree that your manager wants from you. So I agree, he is worth flagging as someone that is probably at odds with the style that Howe is moving towards. Yeah, and look, he could be a pickup for somebody else next season and do pretty well. They're not the exact same player at all, and I actually think he's probably done much more than Adama Traore has. But you see kind of similarities between him and Adama Traore, where obviously there is a talent in Traore, but it's not going to quite work out in certain. I suppose similarities in the way that they're both unbelievable at getting into the opposition's third, right, and then there is an element of frustration that they can't turn that ball progression into high chance creation, because if they could, there'd be £80 million players. Well, his pass success rate in this game was at 60%, which was the lowest in the Newcastle squad. And you know what? I will also give United credit here as well. During the game, you noticed that Casemiro, every time the ball went over to Maximin's side, was over there helping his right back. He was getting doubled up on quite often, and obviously United focused on that, him being a threat, and especially when he's one-on-one with the right back. And as you mentioned, once Dalot was yellowed and the substitution was made, Aaron Bissaka is just incredible at kind of doing that job. So those are my kind of main feats. I don't think Newcastle will be too disappointed. I think they were all very, very, very in with the emotion of being in a cup final for such a long time, and that kind of pressure in general is very, very tough. But yeah, I mean, if they played that game maybe another 9 more times, they might have managed to get a goal and win maybe 2-1 or whatever it might have been. So yeah, it's a little bit tough on them. However, we need to talk a little bit about Manchester United, because we said earlier about how this could be the beginning. Do we think this could be the beginning of a very successful couple of years? It's looking a hell of a lot more positive than, even in the wake of Mourinho's League Cup win and Europa League win. Right now, it feels like United, there's so much room for progress. There's so many edges to be discovered in that side. Like Jadon Sancho, there's much more to come from him, for example. The job he's done with, bringing back Luke Shaw back to the fore as one of the best left-backs in world football. That partnership of Varane and Martinez that we mentioned earlier, that's only going to get stronger, for example. Finding someone that's not just cover for Eriksen in Sabitzer, that's Eriksen's long-term successor in that central midfield. They've got the David De Gea issue to discuss in the summer with the new contract, but I think his post-shot XG last time I looked was around -1.5. He's not exactly simpatico with the style that Ten Hag wants to play, which is building it up from the back, but building it quickly and with purpose. Like, he's not the best passer, is he? So even in some of the stronger areas we've discussed, like I said, edges to be gained. But yeah, if they get a proper number 9 in, as much as I've enjoyed the Weghorst at 10 experiment, if they get number 9 in, great. They can definitely upgrade that right back position. Dalot has obviously been great at the start of the season. If that trajectory continues, maybe less so. Wan-Bissaka has also improved a lot and has showed himself to be a worthy backup, which I don't think anyone reckoned with at the start of the campaign. We need more from Antony. Like, Ten Hag, that's one of the sort of black marks against his name this season. He spent £90 million on a player. We need to see £90 million worth of output. He probably needs to move a few more players on in the summer. Having Harry Maguire linger around the club as club captain while not seeing any game time can't be great for his morale. And you don't want that discontent. Not 5 minutes. Yeah, you don't want that discontent. So yeah, I think, having said all that, there's a clear path for progression. Yeah. Like I said, there's fairly obvious things where they can improve 10, 20, 30% or whatever, which only bodes well for next season, particularly with, these things don't happen in isolation and happen in a bubble, do they? Like, Manchester City are going through a little bit of a transitional phase. Don't need to talk about Chelsea, spoke about them earlier. Don't get us anywhere near the conversation. Liverpool need to rebuild their midfield as well. I mean, it will be missing any obvious candidates there. Tottenham, will Conte, be here past the summer, it is a really good opportunity now, a good time to hit stride. So yeah, I do think, I'm not saying the stars are aligning, but my gosh, is the outlook looking
it's a good time to be a United
more
fan.
Positive. Yeah, and you just need to take advantage of this now and plan really well for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll be covering loads of videos about the future of Manchester United and all that in the future. But there you have it. Manchester United, Carabao Cup champions. Who would have believed it? I'm almost certain that a lot of United fans last year would have been moaning and saying about it doesn't matter when it was Liverpool and Chelsea doing it. Now they're over the moon.
Don't end on a bitter note. What I want to ask the team at home is, if you're Manchester United, who do you sign this summer to make yourself Premier League contenders? Because that, was a ridiculous hypothesis earlier in the season. Not so much now, maybe. Like this video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.